Meet Dr. Regina Shirley. She is a proud native of Cambridge in St. James, Jamaica. She's an educator at both the secondary and tertiary levels and holds a diploma in Christian education, a bachelor's degree in journalism, 2 master's degrees, one in English language and another in business and corporate communications. She also holds a PhD in community development and a postgraduate diploma in English education. Her educational journey began at Cambridge Infant School. She afterwards attended Cambridge Primary School, Mount Alvernia High School for Girls, Montego Bay Community College, the University of the West Indies, International University of Biblical Studies, the Universidad Internacional Isabel E. de Castella, and Atlanta International University. Dr. Shirley is of the Christian faith. She attends Freedom Tabernacle Apostolic Church in Cambridge, St. James, where she pioneered and now oversees the Freedom Tabernacle Apostolic Learning Institute. This outreach program was driven by her passion for community development and specifically to give back to her native community, Cambridge. Dr. Shirley is a mother of 3 sons and treasures family and great friendships. She also places much emphasis on kindness and helping others. Dr. Regina Shirley attributes all her success to God, her mindset and determination, the unwavering support of her family and friends, and the sacrifices of her parents, whose love and dedication has shaped her path. Her life is guided by Romans 8, verse 28. And we know that all things work together for good to them that love God, to them who are the called according to his purpose. Welcome to Define the Odds, Dr. Shirley. What's up? It's great to have you.
Good evening, and thank you so much for having me. Good evening.
Awesome. Awesome. Thank you for consenting to come on Define the Odds. It's great to have you. Now, Dr. Shirley, let's go into the meat of the matter. You grew up in Cambridge, St. James. It's a rural community. And people in the city, like Montego Bay and Kingston, if you tell them that you're growing up in Cambridge, they'll say, oh, you come from country. So what was it like growing up in the country, Cambridge, St. James?
Growing up in Cambridge, it was awesome. I had a great childhood. My childhood was basically one of warmth, and it was basically a typical childhood of any country child in Jamaica. I grew up playing a lot of games. Since I grew up in the 80s, I grew up during a time when technology was not so advanced. So I spent a lot of times outdoors, playing all the games you can think of. Cricket, bat and ball, sight in the middle, all of the games you can think of. I grew up doing that. I also grew up spending a lot of time at the library because unlike now when cell phones are popular, during that time, the cell phone was not popular. TV was hardly very popular. So I grew up spending a lot of time in the library. So initially, I grew up in a nuclear family. I started out in a nuclear family, and then life changed, and I lived in a single parent family. But by the time I got to grade 4, I was back in a nuclear family again, and I spent the rest of my childhood years and into adulthood in a nuclear family. The thing I liked about my childhood was that I lived very close to my relatives. So even though I lived in a nuclear family setting, my extended family was basically right next door. And they played a very significant role in my upbringing. So I grew up with a strong sense of community and a very strong sense of support. So I had a very typical and a very vibrant childhood. Every board game that you can think of, I have played it. Dominoes, card games, Ludi, all of that. I did all of that in my childhood. And church was also an integral part of life when I was growing up. So I grew up in the apostolic church, and that helped to shape who I am today. So it was basically a happy and active childhood surrounded by love, laughter, and basically the bonds of family.
Wow, wonderful. Many of the nowadays children can't say that, because they grow up
Exactly.
playing games on the computer and all of that. But I suppose you're an 80s baby, right?
80s, yes. Born in
Yes.
the 80s.
So if you were born in the 80s in the quote unquote country, we know what it is like to
Right.
climb tree, go a river.
Exactly. Go to the river. Right. Definitely. Definitely.
Yes, wonderful. All right, so you attended infant and primary schools in Cambridge. And so
Yes,
you would
I
have
did.
done the common entrance, correct?
Yes, I did the common entrance exam.
Okay. So after doing the common entrance exams, you would have done so well. It landed you at a traditional high school, which is Mount Alvernia High School for girls. And this is now in the city. And at the time, you're about 11 years old when you're going to start high school. Tell me, what was that for you, like for you? The transition from country to city, and you have to travel, because I know Cambridge. I went to Cambridge High School. So Cambridge is a little
Right.
distance from Montego Bay, which is considered the city. So talk to me about how you navigated that and what your high school years was like.
So I went to Mount Alvernia a few days before my 12th birthday. So I was almost 12 when I stepped into Mount Alvernia High School. It was a whole new world for me. Growing up in the country, I I rarely took a taxi or a bus anywhere because I walked from my home to Cambridge Primary School. So it was very rare that I needed to go into Montego Bay or that I needed to take a bus or a taxi anywhere. But here I was, this little country girl. Now I would have to go to Montego Bay 5 days per week. So whilst I was excited when I got my common entrance result, a part of me was also scared. How was I going to do this? Would I be lost when I tried to find Mount Alvernia on a daily basis? So a lot of things were going through my mind when I passed my exam for Mount Alvernia High School. But I was very, 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 very excited because I just thought about this whole new world that was out there and all the things I was going to do once I got to my new school. The thing is, Cambridge is 16 miles out of Montego Bay. And at Mount Alvernia, punctuality is a must. So now I had the task of ensuring that I got up every morning and I got to Mount Alvernia High School before 7:50. So I had to get up early, especially during this time when Cambridge is cold during this time of the year. So I had to be up very early to ensure that I walked from my house to the main road. It's now that I'm older, I'm realizing that it was quite the distance. When I was young and walking to take a bus to school, it did not seem that far. But whenever I assessed the distance now, I was like, whoa. So that's the distance I used to walk from my home to the main road and then to take a bus to Mount Alvernia High School. So I had to travel 16 miles to school and 16 miles from school on a daily basis. And believe me when I said that I was never late. My cousin and I went to the same school and we were never late for school, even though my mom had to get up early to go to work. Sometimes when I woke up, she was not there. She was already gone to work. but I had to be disciplined enough to get up, to get breakfast, to shower, to do all the essentials to get for school. Mount Alvernia High School was the best years of my life. I had a great, great time at Mount Alvernia High School. I learned everything there. I made the most lasting friendships there. I also I I excelled in what I wanted to excel in, basically. So I did well in school, but I always had this knack for English and writing. And the teachers I had at Mount Alvernia High School they were awesome. They were awesome, especially in English from the seventh grade to the 11th grade. So they basically fueled what was inside of me already. Because I grew up loving to write, loving to read. I had all of that before Mount Alvernia. And then when I got to Mount Alvernia, the teachers there basically made me love to write more, made me love to read more. So I had a great time at Mount Alvernia High School. Some of the best memories that I have are from Mount Alvernia High School. Great institution. I would recommend everybody to go there, of course. Great.
Wow. Wow. Wonderful. It's good to know that the teachers recognize your ability from early and they help to shape the path that you are now on. Because after you left Mount Alvernia, you ran right along with those dreams and visions, and you went into Montego Bay Community College and you
I
ventured
did.
to do your CAPE subjects or what we call pre-university prep for the area that you'd want to go in. Tell me about COMC. What was that like?
Okay. The transition from Mount Alvernia to Comsey was not difficult at all. And it was not difficult because most of my friends, most of my classmates, my peers from Mount Alvernia, they were at Comsey because we went to Mount Alvernia at the time when we did not have a sixth form program. So all of my friends, all of my classmates, well, most of us, we were at Montego Bay Community College. So most of us did the same programs. It's like I was in a classroom with my friends, with others, because now we would have met other students from Montego Bay High School, Herbert Marcy, Cambridge High, the other schools in St. James and outside of St. James. The transition was not difficult. What was difficult was, well, not really difficult, but what was different was the hours for the class. Because at Mount Alvernia, one session was 35 minutes, two sessions, 110 minutes. And here I was having classes for 2 hours, 2.5 hours, 3 hours. That was really hard for me. It took me a while into the first semester to say, okay, I can go to 3 hours of class, or I can go to through 2 hours of class without feeling weary, without feeling like I want to sleep and all of that. But the transition was not hard. At first, when I started to write, I realized that, okay, I will have to up my writing a notch. Because, of course, you get from high school and you go into community college, you're still writing at the high school level. And you write and you realize that you get 60 out of 100 and 50 out of 100. And you're like, what is going on here? Have I lost it? I have always been an English person. Have I lost it? But then it was the same like Mount Alvernia. I met some lecturers at Montego Bay Community College, especially my communication studies lecturer, Mrs. Cook. Still remember her to this day. My literatures in English lecturer, Miss Porter, and my sociology lecturers, they basically put me down and taught me like, hey, you're moving from O level to A level. You can't write the same way. This is what you need to do. This is what you this is how you need to structure your writing. And by a few weeks into ComC or a few months, by the end of the first semester, I was back on the ball with getting the grade that I'm used to and doing what I was used to at Mount Alvernia. So I think the transition, it had little challenges, but it wasn't a lot of challenges. And I always tell myself, I quote myself blessed for the teachers I had at Mount Alvernia and for the ones that took the baton at ComC I count myself blessed every day because I've heard so many stories of, persons transitioning into community college and all of that and not having good lecturers. But I had great lecturers and I am grateful for that.
Awesome. Awesome.
Okay.
All right. So tell me, Dr. Shirley, what were the subjects you did at COMC for the prerequisite for UA?
Okay, so in Cape, I did communication studies, Caribbean studies, literatures in English, history, and sociology, unit 1 and 2.
Okay, so you're an arts girl.
I am an art student, 100%.
Wonderful. So your love for the arts, your love for writing, your love for reading, your love for English language and history and sociology led you
All of
to
that.
doing journalism. And you grew up listening to the radio. You said you grew up listening to the radio and you were motivated
Yes, I
to
did.
venture into journalism. Let's talk about that. Why did you venture into journalism?
I I ventured into journalism, as you said, because of my love for radio. Because at that time, when you went to UWI and you did journalism, you had to choose a specialization. And I knew even before I went that my specialization was going to be radio. Because I grew up in the Alan and Doreen era. We had a TV, yes, but two stations, grandfather watching cricket, not much is on the TV. So the radio was the other source of entertainment. So I was always intrigued of how I could be attached to somebody's voice. Like I could just hear somebody and I would be like, that is Neville Willoughby. That is Alan Magnus. That is Doreen Samuel. And I was so intrigued by that, I decided, you know what? I think I want to do the very same thing as my career. So I decided that I was going to be a journalist and I was going to specialize in radio broadcast.
Awesome. I can now hear it. We are the 80s baby, So I know what you're talking about. So I can almost hear right now in my mind, good
Yes.
morning, Jamaica.
Good. Exactly.
Alan and Doreen.
Alan and Doreen,
Oh,
yes.
wow. Those were some beautiful days indeed. However, this is quite interesting because you went into Kingston, you did
Mhm.
your degree in journalism, but alas, you are not in journalism. What happened? Why didn't you pursue a career in journalism? What happened?
Okay, so the first thing that happened was I did not want to stay in Kingston after school, after university. I wanted to come back home. And during that time, well, even now, most of the media houses, the central branches are in Kingston. So when I decided that I was going to return to St. James, return to Cambridge rather, because I wasn't living in Montego Bay at the time, I was still living in Cambridge. All my friends, everybody was asking, so why did you do a journalism degree then? What are you going to go back home and do with it? And I said, you know what? I'm going back home. If I don't get to work in journalism, I will get to work in some other field. I thought about Lynx FM in Savlamar at the time. And I said, okay, Lynx FM, Savlamar, close enough to Cambridge. And I think Mellow FM had a branch. And I think that was it down this side at the time. And I said, well, I'm going to try if I can get a job at one of those. If not, I will just have to choose another career path. So that's really what happened. I didn't want to stay in Kingston. I wanted to come back home.
Wow, that is quite interesting because most times when you have young people going off into Kingston to university, they don't come back home and they don't want to come back home.
They don't want to come back home.
Yes, so home is where your heart was. So
Exactly.
for you now, your life took a turn because you came back home and you ended up getting a job in the teaching profession. And that was
Mhm.
where it all started for you and how it's going for you now. Let's
That's
talk
right.
about this teaching career of yours.
You know, the funny thing, even before I go into my teaching career, the funny thing is I wanted to be a teacher up to about the 10th grade. I like teaching. I like journalism. But when I got into grade 11, for some reason, journalism took the edge. When I was going to think about ComC and UE, I said, I'm going to do journalism. I remember my mother saying to me, but you've always wanted to be a teacher. So why aren't you signing up for Sam Sharp? Why are you going to ComC? Of course, she thought it was because of my friends, but I wanted to go because I wanted to do a journalism degree. So it's not that teaching became a second option. It's not so much of a second option. It's the fact that I wanted to do both, but I decided that I was going to go with journalism first. But God would have it, fate would have it, that after UE and I came back home, I could not land a job in journalism. And I saw Mount Salem Primary and Junior High School advertising for an English language teacher. And English has always been effortless for me. Primary school, high school, it was that subject that I did not have to study for. It was that subject that basically came naturally. And I saw this, and then I remembered that a communication degree, a degree in journalism in communication, it's basically English based. So I said to myself, you know what? I'm going to apply for this position. And I applied for the position and I got the job the same day. I started teaching this same day. I have never written a lesson plan. I have never been to teachers college. I have never done any of that. But I was hired on the spot and basically thrown into the classroom. And here I am today.
Wow.
Yes,
Wow. But
yes.
that led you because you were at Mount Salem, then you had to go to
Mhm.
other schools because that was
Other
not a
institution.
permanent job.
Right.
So you were moving
Mhm.
from school to school, being a teacher. At one point, you were at Teamwork. At one point, you were
Yes.
at Cambridge High School. And
Cambridge
at
High.
some point,
Mhm.
you were at Kenilworth. And then you recognize the
Yes.
trajectory of your life and you were not so comfortable with the salary because you were not a quote unquote trained teacher. So you
Right.
went back to do
Right.
your post. That was how you went back to do the postgrad in teaching,
Right.
or in education. And you have now been at St. James High School since 2016, which is
2016.
quite
Yes.
interesting. Your teachings now, St. James High School is not a traditional high school. You went to a
No, it's
traditional
not.
high school and now you're a teacher in a school that is not a traditional high school. Now tell me about St. James High School. You have been there since 2016. It's now 2025. What has life been there? How has it been?
Okay. First and foremost, I love my job. I love my job. I love St. James High School. Persons have asked me, why am I not at a traditional high school? I love St. James High School. And the reason I love St. James High School, outside of the general camaraderie among staff and all of that, I love St. James High School because, in contrast to a traditional high school, teaching at St. James High School requires a more adaptive approach, so to speak. And when I say adaptive approach, I mean it requires an approach that has to do with more diversity and meeting more diverse student needs. At a traditional high school, most, if not all, of the students are on the same level. Most of the students in traditional high schools, they are reading at the level they are supposed to be reading and all of that. But at St. James High School, as in with other non-traditional high schools, we face different students with, different unique challenges, unique situations. And it's basically a non-linear learning journey, so to speak, because they have so many different circumstances, so many different things that are impacting on their education. So as a teacher now, I have become more flexible, more creative, and I have become more focused on individual instruction, so to speak, and fostering a supportive environment that prioritizes both academic growth and personal development. So it is a rewarding experience because it allows me to connect with students, to deeply connect with them, not only academically, but otherwise. Here I am helping students to overcome other barriers to their success. So it is a more dynamic nature than a traditional high school. Well, to me, it is more dynamic than a traditional high school because it helps me to be more enriching in my teaching. It helped me to try more teaching methods, and it gives me a greater stress on the greater appreciation for the resilience of these students coming out of so many circumstances. And it gives me an appreciation for them, how resilient they are to push forward because of the transformative power, of education. And the other thing I love about St. James High School is that, first of all, I always tell people I am not made for a traditional high school. I went to one, but I don't think I am made to teach at one. I love helping students to move from one level to the other, so to speak. So when you get a student that comes into school and the student's average, for example, is 20 out of 100, I'm just saying, and at the end of grade 11, that student ends up with a 2 on a CXC exam. That is a huge accomplishment. Even if such a student ends up with a 3 on their CXC exam, that is a huge accomplishment. And that is what I love about St. James High School. You move the students from this level to that level, and you feel this deep sense of accomplishment. So I love it there. Love, love, love it there.
Awesome, awesome. And I know you've been getting good grades for CXC because at St. James High School, you teach the upper school. So you teach
Yes, I do.
10, 11, and you also do CAPE.
Cape, Caribbean studies, Caribbean and communication sometimes, but more so Caribbean studies at the grade 13 level.
Awesome. And I know your
Yes.
average for CXC passes is about 86%.
It has fluctuated from between
89%.
like 91, 89, right? That's where we've been for the last couple of years.
Awesome. Awesome.
Yes.
That's awesome. And to think that your cup would be full at St. James High School and that you're already stretched up there, you would not have any space to do anything else. But being the driven person you are, you still find time to begin a community service, a community outreach program, another school as
Yes.
in your community. Let's talk about that. You pioneered a work at your church in Cambridge that you are doing the same type of work there, helping people through education. What
Yes.
what 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 really caused you to take on this community development activity?
Okay. So the first thing, all right, I grew up, like I said, I grew up Christian. I grew up in the apostolic faith, and ministry means a lot to me. And a lot of times when people hear ministry, they think of the pulpit, they think of preaching, they think of speaking in church and all of that. But I have always said to myself, Lord, the skills and the talents that you so graciously blessed me with, I would like to use these same skills and talents to give back to your people. And when I say your people, I'm not talking about just church folks. I'm talking about everybody. And I have always had a passion for community development. I've always had a passion for my community because even though I live outside of Cambridge now, Cambridge is home. And Cambridge is always going to be home, no matter where I live. Because I live in Montego Bay, but I still go to church in Cambridge. I have not switched my church either because I want to stay connected to my hometown and stay connected to my roots. So I have always wanted to give back to my community. And I just realized that this is a way that I can give back. I can give somebody else a chance. I can, I can, I can basically volunteer my time and my services to help somebody achieve something the same way that I have achieved. So with that, I decided that, you know what, through my church, I'm going to start a school that offers free CXC English because that's how it started. Free CXC English to people in and around Cambridge. And we started with English, and then, other subjects started to be added to the line. Other persons in the church started to come on board. Other subjects started to be added. And it is just a heartwarming experience, so to speak. And it's a sacrifice. It's a huge sacrifice because I do this on Saturdays. So I do not have a Saturday. From September to May, I do not have a Saturday, but I would not change it for the world. I would not change it for anything.
Wow. So let's let the audience hear what you offer at what's the name of the school? Tell us the name of the
So
school.
it's named after the church. So it's Freedom Tabernacle Apostolic Church and Freedom Tabernacle Apostolic Learning Institute.
All right, Freedom Tabernacle
Right.
Learning Institute. And you
Yes.
know that when we put out this video, people are going to hear. So you might get an
Yes.
influx of students. I don't want to know
That's
what you
okay.
offer. So,
Okay.
audience, it's free. So it's free CXC English.
Free
What else do you
Mhm.
offer?
Social studies and principles of accounts. That's where we are now. We don't know what the new
Awesome.
school term in September is going to bring, but now principles of accounts, English language, and social studies, all for free. The only thing you pay are your exam fees. You don't pay us anything. Right.
Wow.
So you pay for the exam fee.
Wow. That's awesome. That's wonderful. All right. So your CXC English teaching career has led you to write a book as well. Because
Yes,
you would have
ma'am.
been teaching CXC for a while, you'd have seen some needs, and being the forward thinker that you are, you thought it necessary to write a book to address these needs. Let's talk about authorship. Let's talk about why you wrote this book. Let's talk about why it's different from every other CXC book out there. And if you have a copy, let's show
Okay.
our audience your book.
Okay. So 2023 in about January, because I teach part-time also. I teach part-time, I teach nurses and just general people doing CXC English. And 2023 in January, I remember one of my students that she was studying for nursing. She said to me, she said, I wish I had a textbook that focused solely on the syllabus. She said, I wish I had a textbook that had nothing else in it but the information that is on the CXC syllabus for paper 2. And I said, that's interesting. So I asked her, I said, what do you mean? She said to me, like, all of the other textbooks out there, they're overcrowded, there's too much information. I just wish I had a book that I could take it up and I would know that these are the topics in the book and these are the topics on the exam. She said to me, as somebody that works and studies, it would make life so much easier if a textbook was like that. And a light bulb went off in my head when she said that. And I said, you know what? I am going to do that book. I said, you know what? I like the idea. And I said to myself, I'm going to do that book. And I started putting the material together. What I realized is that I had a lot of the material already, because normally when I'm going to start a topic, I sit down and I put my notes and my activities and everything together. And I was like, but I wasn't halfway there yet, but I'm like, I'm probably quarter way there already. So I took the CXC syllabus and I went through it and I said, okay, for paper two, these are the things that are on the syllabus. I am going to write this book. And that was the inspiration behind my book. And then I realized that even students at the high school level, they were saying the same book. They were saying the same thing. Miss, why this textbook makes no sense? No offense to anybody. I'm just quoting my students. This book makes no sense. It has too much information. It is too overcrowded. And I realized that the students at the high school level had the same problem. They wanted a book with only the syllabus information. And I said to myself, I'm going to write that book. And I decided to write the book. So that's where it came from. Yes.
Wow. And your book is now available on Amazon.
It's available on Amazon,
Yes.
or it's available at Wilmot Academy, Montego Bay, or you can call me for the book. What I'm trying to do now is to get it into bookstores and all of that. I'm not there as yet, but we're getting there. But for now, it's Wilmot Academy, Montego Bay. It's myself, and it is Amazon because it's
Awesome.
already published on Amazon.
Awesome.
Yes, and this book, it's different from every other book out there because it is tailored specifically for the syllabus. If it's not on the syllabus, it's not in the book. And that is what makes it different. It's
Wonderful.
a sure path. Yes.
Wonderful. All
Yeah.
right. All right. So for persons who would like to purchase the book, this is what it looks like. And before Dr.
This is
Shirley
what it
goes
looks
in,
like.
we'll have her say her number that you can, or you can just say it right now. Let us know. Give us the telephone number that persons can call to access your book.
Okay, so my phone number is 876-778-6610. 876-778-6610.
Awesome. And
Or
what's the
you may
cost
purchase
of the
it.
book?
The cost of the book is $6,000.
Okay.
Okay.
And you say they can purchase on Amazon and Wilmot Academy.
Wilmot Academy, Montego Bay, yes.
Awesome. Wonderful. Thank you. All right. So you mentioned that you don't only teach in the days and you don't only teach on Saturdays, but you also teach in the evenings. Dr.
In the
Shirley,
evening.
you are a full-time teacher. 7 days a week, it seems.
I am.
So tell us about these evening classes. Where do you teach in the
6 days a
evening?
week.
6 days.
I teach at Wilmot Academy. I teach at Wilmot Academy in Montego Bay. I've been teaching there since 2012, and also sometimes Wilmot is consistently every year, but sometimes I am with Heart. I also facilitate communication modules for Heart. So I do that. Plus, I am also an adjunct lecturer at the university level. So that is also there.
Wow. Wow. So you do all of this and you're a mother of 3
I
boys.
am.
How do
Yes,
you
I am.
navigate that? How do you be a parent, a good mother, and a full-time teacher, and a teacher on Saturdays, and a teacher in the evenings, and you are studying? Well, you are probably not you are studying now because you're doing some courses with the International University of Biblical Studies. So you're always studying. So how do you balance it all? Tell us.
So yes, I have 3 sons. 2, God bless me with biologically. The other is a bonus, but all 3 of them are mine nonetheless. And balancing work life and motherhood, it has been one of the most challenging things I've ever done, but it has also been one of the most rewarding experiences of my life. It requires careful planning and discipline. That's really what it requires. Your mindset is very important, but your talent alone won't get you to do certain things. Careful planning and discipline are very important. Because what I found out is that sticking to a schedule is crucial. That's very, very crucial. Because when I stick to a schedule, it allows me to allocate like specific time for work, specific time for my boys, specific time for personal growth and all of that. And the good thing is, I am fortunate that I have a strong support system of family, but to be honest with you, more so friends who stepped in when I was studying and helped me to take care of my children and to meet other commitments. Because my family lives in Cambridge, so I live away from my family. But God has blessed me with some friends that have really become like second parents to my children. Friends that will keep them for me to go to school. Friends that will keep them for me to go to an extra job. I remember when I was doing my first master's at UWI, I had to be going into Kingston I don't even remember, but I think it was every other Saturday or one Saturday per month, and my friends were there. I was leaving home at 4:45 in the morning to catch the Northford Express to go to Kingston. And my friends were there. My friends were there. Yes, I will keep them. Yes, I will do this. I had a friend, and God bless her. Her name is Crystal. They would stay with Crystal after school. And when I got in from work, homework would be done. They would be fed. Everything would be done. It is as if they are our very own children. So because of that, I was able to maneuver everything because it has not been an easy task. The support from my family, but especially my friends, was invaluable. And it taught me the importance of, the village. We grew up in a time when we said that it takes a village to raise a child. And I'm grateful to God for my village. And all of these experiences, they helped me to not only grow as a mother, but it strengthened my ability to multitask, to prioritize and to stay focused under pressure because it was not easy. It is still challenging, but I find a way to make it work.
Wow. Awesome.
Yes.
Awesome. I was looking into some research recently about what are some of the factors that help men who have done the tertiary level studies. What are some of the factors that have helped them to finish university, to complete tertiary level education? And the underlying factor for all of these men is support. That's the underlying factor, support. And I suppose definitely. It's not just for men. The support is very important if we're going to get where we want to go. We need people in our corner. And that is so powerful, and it's so great that you had that support, and so that you now can become a support system for somebody.
Exactly. That is it.
Wonderful. So your resume undoubtedly has positioned you as a lifelong learner, and you have done so much already. Diploma, first degree, second degrees, terminal degree, postgraduate. Somebody that say, Regina, you done? You done now? What's up? What's up? What will Regina do? What's next on Regina's agenda? You done now or you just a call?
I'm not finished. Like, all right. I don't know when I will ever be finished with studying, with teaching, with education, so to speak. So like you said, my resume has basically positioned me as a lifelong learner. And it's a badge that I wear with honor. I am that person that, are you tired of going to school? No. Are you tired of studying? No. I remember somebody asking me, would you do another PhD? Definitely. Not will I do it. I will do it. Maybe not now. But I know that I definitely will do it because I am the person that always wants to study, always wants to learn more. So my resume basically positions me as a lifelong learner because my resume reflects my dedication to lifelong learning, not only through my academic achievements, but through my professional development, my diverse experiences. So earning multiple degrees, for example, a PhD, it shows that I am passionate about knowledge. I'm passionate about education. It demonstrates my passion for expanding my knowledge and my expertise. And, I have also pursued other certifications. The other day I was online scrolling and I saw the Hartshows offering the teacher trainer certification. And I'm like, I should do that. I should definitely do that. And when I do these things, it ensures that I stay on top of my game and I'm up to date with the trends and the practices and the best practices in my field. And then it goes beyond formal education because beyond formal education, my career trajectory basically showcases, my adaptability, my willingness to embrace new challenges, whether it be I am transitioning between roles or exploring innovative teaching strategies or responding to the needs of my students. So it's basically like a blend. My resume basically showcases a blend of like formal education on ongoing professional growth and basically adaptability to different circumstances. And all of this just helps to concrete my belief that learning should be lifelong. Learning should be lifelong. Never stop learning. Even if you are not doing a degree, so to speak, or doing degrees, we should never stop learning. We should always, that's what I think, we should always be researching something, finding something out, and it will help with our professional or personal development and all of that. So no, me not done. I'm just coming. I'm just coming. That's where I am.
Wonderful. Wonderful.
Yeah.
That's awesome. And as an educator, you have to
Mm-hmm.
keep learning because the
Have to.
information is changing every day. So you have to
Mm-hmm.
keep up with the new information. Your
You have to,
education is
yes.
not static. So if you're ever going to become an educator, you have to understand that as an educator, you're also always learning. So
Always, yes.
that's powerful. Final question for you today, Dr. Shirley. If
Mm-hmm.
you were to sit down and talk to young girls in Cambridge, you grew up in
Yes.
Cambridge, rural
Mm-hmm.
area. Um, sometimes some persons may even be affected by poverty and all of that in rural Jamaica. And here you are today, you have done so much. If you were to give a talk to some young ladies in Cambridge or young girls in Cambridge should see your interview, what would you want to say to them?
I would want to tell them that you are not your circumstance and it's not where you're coming from. It's the mindset and the determination that you have, and it's where you're going. That's the main thing I would like to tell them because growing up in Cambridge, I did not grow up rich. From an early age, I saw that education was my way out. I recognized that from a very, very early age. And because of that, I had the mindset that, hey, I must do better. I, I must be better. I'm not going to continue the cycle of certain things that I see in my community. So from an early age, I had that mindset. I remember one time I was going to Montego Bay Community College and I was studying. I was on my veranda and I had a CAPE exam and I was studying. And a lady passed my house and she went into Montego Bay and she did whatever she was doing. And when she was coming back, she saw me studying at the same place. And she stopped and she said to me, did you even move? And I said to her, I moved to go to the bathroom and to eat. That's all I moved to do because what? I had an exam and I had to pass and I was studying because my current situation at the time was not going to be my reality forever. So I just want to I would tell the young girls in Cambridge that it's not where you're coming from. Don't matter about the rural community, the poverty and all of that. Put your head to your book, as our grandparents would say, and get that education. Because education is it's a transformative force, and it can change lives and it can change situations. It did it for me, it can do the same for you. So that's what I would advise.
Awesome.
Mhm.
Education is a transformative force,
Transformative force. Yes,
and it can change lives and it can change
definitely.
situations.
Yes, it can.
Dr. Regina Shirley, thank you so much. We will end on that note. Thank you for sitting with me this afternoon and for talking to me. And I hope that anybody who is watching this today will be inspired by your life, by your story, and understand that the transformative power of education is also available to them. They just need to tap into it. Thank you, Dr. Shirley. It's great to
Thanks for
be.
having me. Thank you.
Awesome.
All right.